There are moments in life when your mind feels like a room full of echoes. One thought bounces against another, a word becomes a sentence becomes a story, and before you realize it, you are drowning in your own thoughts. You tell yourself to stop, but it's like trying to silence the wind. The more you fight it, the louder it becomes. You begin to wonder if something is wrong with you, if you think too much, feel too deeply, or care too hard. But the truth is, overthinking is not a flaw. It is simply your mind's way of trying to protect you. It wants to find certainty in an uncertain world. It wants to prepare you for everything that could go wrong. The problem is, life isn't meant to be controlled in that way. Life unfolds moment by moment, not inside your head, but right in front of you. You see, the mind is a storyteller. It loves to create scenarios, predictions, and explanations. It wants to know what's next. It wants to understand why something happened. It wants to make sense of what cannot be fully known. When you overthink, it's because your mind is trying to find safety in thinking. But thinking doesn't always bring safety. Sometimes, it builds walls where there should be windows. Sometimes it traps you inside possibilities that never even existed. And that's the irony. While you overthink to avoid pain, the act of overthinking becomes the very thing that hurts you. You replay conversations, analyze every word, every tone, every pause. You imagine what someone meant, what you could have said, what you should have done differently. You project into the future, creating problems that haven't happened yet, fearing outcomes that might never come. And all the while, life passes quietly around you. The sound of the rain. The smile of a stranger. The warmth of sunlight on your face. You miss these small moments because you're too lost in the noise within. But what if you could learn to let go? What if you could step back and see your thoughts for what they are, just passing clouds across the sky of your mind? That's the essence of stopping overthinking. It's not about forcing yourself to stop thinking. It's about changing your relationship with your thoughts. Instead of fighting them, you watch them. Instead of believing every story they tell, you begin to question them. Not with judgment, but with gentle curiosity. When a thought arises, what if I fail, or what if they don't like me? Pause and notice it. Don't try to push it away. Just say to yourself, that's a thought. Because that's all it is. It's not the truth. It's not a prophecy. It's a momentary spark in your mind. Thoughts are not facts. They are events. They appear and disappear, just like waves in the ocean. You are not the wave. You are the ocean beneath it, vast, still, and steady. Overthinking often begins when we mistake our thoughts for reality. We start believing the stories our minds create. We assume that because we think it, it must be real. But reality is what you can touch, what you can see, what is happening right now. Overthinking lives in the past and the future. Reality lives in the present. When you return to the present, even for a moment, overthinking loses its grip. Take a breath. Feel it enter your body. Notice the rise and fall of your chest. That simple act brings you home. It reminds you that life is happening here, not in the maze of what-ifs and maybes. Every time you return to your breath, you anchor yourself to the now. You tell your mind, I'm safe in this moment. And slowly, thought by thought, your mind learns to trust that safety again. We overthink because we want control. We want to make sure everything turns out perfectly, that no one misunderstands us, that we don't make mistakes. but perfection is an illusion. You can prepare, but you can't predict. You can plan, but you can't control the outcome. The truth is, control brings temporary comfort but permanent anxiety. The more you try to control life, the more afraid you become of what you can't control. Letting go isn't giving up. It's choosing peace over certainty. It's realizing that not knowing is not the same as being unsafe. Think about the times you worried endlessly about something that eventually worked itself out. How much energy did you waste trying to manage what was never yours to manage? How much of your joy did you trade for a sense of false security? Overthinking steals your time, your peace, your present moment. But you can reclaim them. You reclaim them every time you decide to step out of your head and into your life. It begins with awareness. You can't stop overthinking if you don't notice it happening. So start by paying attention. Notice when your mind starts spiraling. Notice the physical sensations, tightness in your chest, tension in your shoulders, restlessness in your hands. These are signals that you're lost in thought. When you catch yourself, don't get angry. Don't tell yourself you're broken. Simply take a breath and say, "I'm thinking a lot right now." That simple sentence brings compassion into the moment. And compassion is stronger than control. The next step is acceptance. Most people try to stop overthinking by fighting their thoughts. But what you resist, persists. The harder you push your thoughts away, the stronger they come back. Instead, try this: allow the thought to exist. Watch it. Observe it as if you're watching clouds move across the sky. You don't have to do anything about it. You don't have to fix it. The thought loses its power when you stop engaging with it. Then, gently shift your focus back to what's real. The sound of your breath. The feeling of your feet on the ground. The present moment is always stronger than any thought. It's the one thing overthinking can't touch. Each time you come back to now, you're building the muscle of presence. Over time, presence becomes your natural state, and overthinking becomes nothing more than background noise. Sometimes, the reason you overthink is because there's unprocessed emotion underneath. Fear, guilt, regret, sadness. When those emotions are not felt fully, they disguise themselves as thoughts. The mind keeps replaying events because the heart hasn't yet healed. So, instead of trying to think less, try to feel more. Ask yourself, what emotion is my mind avoiding right now? Maybe it's the fear of failure. Maybe it's the pain of disappointment. Allow yourself to feel it. When you face the feeling, the thoughts no longer need to protect you from it. Action is another antidote to overthinking. The more you stay still, the louder your mind becomes. So take small, grounded actions. Go for a walk. Clean your space. Write down what's on your mind. When you act, you shift energy from thinking to doing. The act itself doesn't have to solve your problem, it just breaks the cycle of paralysis. Movement creates clarity. Stillness in thought often creates confusion. And remember, you will never think your way into certainty. There will always be unknowns. There will always be things you can't predict. But that's what makes life beautiful. The same uncertainty that causes fear also creates possibility. If everything were certain, there would be no room for surprise, no space for wonder. So instead of fearing uncertainty, learn to coexist with it. When you stop needing answers, peace has room to enter. You might not realize it, but overthinking is often a form of self-protection. You believe that if you think enough, you can avoid pain. But pain is not the enemy. Pain is a teacher. It's what helps you grow, learn, and evolve. Avoiding pain only prolongs it. Facing it allows it to pass. When you stop running from discomfort, you no longer need to overthink every situation trying to avoid it. You start trusting yourself. You start believing that no matter what happens, you can handle it. That's the heart of ending overthinking. It's not about controlling your thoughts, it's about trusting yourself. Trust that you can handle uncertainty. Trust that you can survive mistakes. Trust that not knowing is okay. When you build self-trust, your mind relaxes. It no longer needs to predict every outcome, because it believes in your ability to adapt. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. You are the one who sees the storm, not the storm itself. You are not broken. You are simply learning to see differently. And the more you practice observing without judgment, the quieter your mind becomes. Over time, peace stops being something you chase, it becomes something you naturally return to. Overthinking may feel like a habit that defines you, but it's not permanent. It's a learned pattern, and what's learned can be unlearned. Every time you choose presence over rumination, compassion over control, trust over fear, you are rewiring your mind. It's a process, gentle, patient, and kind. You don't need to rush it. You just need to return to it, again and again. You will still have moments when your mind races, when you replay the past or worry about the future. That's okay. The goal isn't to stop thinking. The goal is to stop identifying with every thought. When you learn to do that, you'll realize that peace isn't found in solving your thoughts, it's found in releasing them. Sometimes, the hardest part of overthinking is how invisible it feels. No one else can see the storm inside you. On the outside, you may look calm, quiet, even put together. But inside, your mind is racing, spinning through possibilities, regrets, what-ifs, memories, and fears that blend into each other until you can't tell which ones are real anymore. It's like standing in a room full of mirrors, where every reflection shows a different version of the same moment. You keep turning from one to another, searching for the truth, but the truth doesn't live there. The truth lives outside the mirrors. It lives in the space beyond your thoughts. One of the most powerful things you can realize is that your thoughts are not trying to hurt you. They're trying to help, in their own clumsy way. Overthinking is the mind's attempt to find safety, to prevent pain, to prepare for what might go wrong. But the problem is, it does so by imagining pain that doesn't even exist yet. You end up suffering twice, once in your imagination, and once in reality, if it even happens. Most of the things we worry about never come true. And yet, we live through them 1,000 times in our minds. What would happen if you stopped? What if you gave yourself permission to let life unfold without rehearsing every outcome? When you do that, something beautiful starts to happen. You start to experience life directly. You notice things you never noticed before, the rhythm of your breath, the way sunlight filters through a window, the quiet moments that used to go unnoticed because you were too lost in thought. You start to realize that peace isn't something you find after solving your problems. It's something you create by being present, even when the problems remain unsolved. Sometimes, overthinking is disguised as responsibility. You tell yourself you're just being careful, just being thorough, just making sure you don't make a mistake. But often, that's fear in disguise, fear of being wrong, fear of being judged, fear of failing. The truth is, mistakes are part of being human. You don't grow by avoiding them, you grow by learning from them. You cannot think your way into perfection. You can only live your way into wisdom. And wisdom doesn't come from thinking, it comes from experience. From trying, failing, adjusting, trying again. The mind that overthinks is often the mind that doesn't trust its own experience. It doubts itself so deeply that it keeps looping through thought as a form of safety. But safety doesn't come from thinking. It comes from self-trust. Every time you take action, no matter how small, you build that trust. Every time you make a decision, even when it's imperfect, you teach your mind that it's okay not to have all the answers. Ask yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen if I stopped overthinking for one day? What if I made choices from intuition instead of fear? What if I let go of control, just for a moment, and allowed life to show me what happens next? You might discover that most of what you feared wasn't real. You might realize that you are far more capable than your thoughts make you believe. When you live inside your head, you start to lose touch with your body. You forget that you are more than thoughts, you are breath, heartbeat, feeling, presence. That's why grounding yourself in physical sensations can be powerful. When your thoughts spiral, come back to your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the air on your skin. Listen to the sounds around you. Every sensory detail anchors you in the present. And in the present, there is no overthinking, only being. Some people fear that if they stop overthinking, they'll become careless, or they'll lose their edge. But the opposite is true. When your mind is calm, your decisions become clearer. When you're not clouded by fear and confusion, you see things as they are, not as your thoughts distort them to be. Clarity doesn't come from thinking more, it comes from thinking less, but with focus. It comes from stillness. The best answers often arise when you're not trying to think at all, when you're walking, showering, or just sitting quietly. That's when your subconscious, the deeper part of your intelligence, finally has space to speak. It's also important to understand that overthinking is not entirely your fault. We live in a world that constantly demands analysis. We're bombarded with choices, opinions, comparisons. We scroll through the lives of others and wonder if we're doing enough, being enough, achieving enough. The mind reacts by trying to calculate and compare, trying to make sense of endless information. But the truth is, you can't think your way out of the noise of the modern world. You can only step back from it. You can choose silence. You can choose peace. You can choose to be instead of to analyze. One of the simplest but most profound shifts you can make is to replace judgment with curiosity. When a thought arises, instead of asking why am I thinking this, ask what is this trying to show me? Sometimes, the mind replays old memories because it's asking for closure. Sometimes, it worries about the future because it feels unprepared. Curiosity turns your thoughts into teachers instead of enemies. You begin to listen, not to get stuck, but to understand. Once understood, most thoughts lose their urgency. They pass naturally. And sometimes, the best way to quiet your thoughts is to stop trying to be perfect. Perfectionism is fuel for overthinking. It tells you that you can't rest until everything is right. But life will never be perfectly right. It will always be slightly unfinished, slightly uncertain, slightly messy. That's what makes it real. That's what makes it human. When you accept imperfection, you give yourself permission to breathe. You realize that good enough is often more than enough. When your mind feels loud, remind yourself, you are allowed to rest. You don't have to solve everything today. You don't have to earn your peace by thinking your way to it. You can simply pause, breathe, and let things be unresolved. Life continues even when you don't have the answers. The sun still rises, the world still turns, and you are still capable of joy even in uncertainty. Overthinking is like trying to read the same page over and over, hoping the story will change. But the story only moves forward when you turn the page. At some point, you must decide to move on, not because you have all the answers, but because you're ready to trust yourself enough to keep going. Growth doesn't happen in endless analysis, it happens in motion. There's something powerful about surrender. It's not weakness. It's not giving up. It's the courage to stop fighting with what is. When you surrender to the present, you make peace with the fact that life is unpredictable, that people are imperfect, and that control is an illusion. You begin to experience a softer kind of strength, the kind that bends instead of breaks, the kind that flows instead of fights. That's the kind of strength that ends overthinking. You might wonder, but how do I start? How do I actually stop when my mind feels louder than me? The answer is simple, though not always easy. Start small. One thought at a time. One breath at a time. When a spiral begins, take a step back and ask, is this thought helping me right now? If it's not, let it go. Redirect your attention to something you can control, a small action, a simple task, a single moment of awareness. You don't need to silence your whole mind at once. You just need to choose peace one thought at a time. And remember, peace isn't the absence of thoughts, it's the absence of attachment to them. It's being able to say, I see you, thought, but I choose not to follow you. Every time you do that, you reclaim a little more freedom. You create a little more space inside yourself. That space is where calmness lives. That's where clarity grows. It's okay to not always be calm. It's okay to have racing thoughts. You are human. The goal isn't to eliminate your mind's activity, it's to live peacefully with it. Think of it like the weather. Some days are clear, others stormy. You don't control the weather, but you can choose how to walk through it. You can carry an umbrella instead of cursing the rain. You can find beauty in the sound of thunder. You can understand that every storm passes, and so will this one. You will get better at this. Every time you bring awareness to a spiral, you're retraining your mind. Every time you choose compassion instead of frustration, you're building resilience. Every time you remind yourself that not every thought deserves your attention, you're strengthening your peace. Progress might be slow, but it's real. Healing doesn't shout, it whispers. It happens in quiet moments when you realize you haven't been overthinking for a while, and you didn't even notice. That's growth. One day, you'll look back and see that the things you once worried about never mattered as much as you thought. You'll see that the moments you let go were the moments you were most alive. You'll realize that peace isn't something you find after the storm, it's what carries you through it. There will come a time when you'll notice that the noise in your head has softened. The same thoughts that used to hold you hostage will start to lose their power. You'll hear them, but they'll sound distant, almost harmless, like waves gently touching the shore instead of crashing against it. You'll realize that you've been practicing something all along: presence, trust, self-compassion. You might not have noticed it happening, but each time you took a breath, each time you chose to let a thought pass without grabbing onto it, you were changing your relationship with your mind. Overthinking doesn't vanish all at once. It fades slowly, like the end of a long storm. There are still clouds sometimes, still moments of rain, but they no longer frighten you. You know that clear skies are always behind them. That's what growth feels like, not perfection, but resilience. You no longer panic when your thoughts come rushing in. You simply smile and say, "I see you." And then you return to this moment. Because this moment is where your life actually happens. You begin to see that not every thought deserves attention. Some are echoes of the past. Some are shadows of the future. Some are just noise. But in between those thoughts, there are spaces, tiny gaps of stillness. And in those gaps, you find yourself. The real you. The one who is not afraid. The one who has always been there, quietly waiting beneath the chaos of the mind. Every time you rest in that stillness, even for a heartbeat, you reconnect with who you truly are. You start to see patterns that used to control you. The same worries that looped endlessly now appear as familiar visitors, and instead of arguing with them, you nod politely and let them pass. You no longer need to solve every feeling, justify every thought, or fix every emotion. You understand that not everything in life requires an answer. Some things are meant to be felt, experienced, and released. That is how healing happens, through allowing, not through analyzing. And then, something subtle shifts inside you. You begin to trust again, not the world, not the people around you, but yourself. You realize that no matter what happens, you will find your way through it. You may fall, but you will rise. You may get lost, but you will return. Trust is not about knowing the outcome. It's about believing in your ability to face it. When you have that trust, overthinking loses its fuel. It can no longer control you with fear, because you've replaced fear with faith, in yourself, in life, in the process of being human. It's strange how the mind works. It can be both your greatest prison and your greatest teacher. The same thoughts that once caused pain can eventually lead to understanding. You start to appreciate your mind, not because it's perfect, but because it's trying. It's been trying to keep you safe all along. When you stop fighting it, when you start listening with kindness, your mind learns to relax. It doesn't have to scream anymore to be heard. And with that, something beautiful happens. You begin to live. Truly live. Not just exist inside the theater of your thoughts, but engage with the world around you. You laugh without replaying the moment afterward. You make choices without fearing the consequences before they happen. You wake up and simply notice the day, the air, the light, the quiet promise that comes with a new morning. That's what freedom feels like. Not the absence of thought, but the presence of peace. There will still be days when the old habits return. Days when you'll catch yourself spiraling again, thinking too much, analyzing too deeply. On those days, don't be discouraged. Healing is not a straight line. It's a gentle wave, moving forward and back, but always flowing toward peace. When those moments come, remind yourself, this too is part of the process. Every time you find your way back to the present, you're practicing strength. Every time you forgive yourself for overthinking, you're building patience. And every time you keep going, you're growing. You may not notice your progress at first. It will sneak up on you in small, quiet ways. You'll find yourself choosing calm instead of chaos. You'll realize that the silence you used to fear now feels like home. You'll understand that not every unanswered question needs an answer. Some of them simply need time. And one day, without even meaning to, you'll stop overthinking something that once consumed you, and that's when you'll know, you've changed. That's how it works. Growth doesn't shout. It whispers. It doesn't demand that you fix everything at once, it invites you to be patient. It teaches you to trust the rhythm of your own journey. Because life isn't meant to be figured out all at once. It's meant to be lived, moment by moment, step by step. You can't think your way into peace. You can only surrender your way into it. So, let yourself breathe. Let yourself be. Let yourself make mistakes, learn, and move forward. You are allowed to not have all the answers. You are allowed to rest without feeling guilty. You are allowed to let go of control and trust that life will still unfold as it should. You've spent so long living in your head, maybe now, it's time to come back to your heart. There's a kind of wisdom that only comes from quiet. When you stop overthinking, you start hearing that wisdom more clearly. It doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it simply knows. It reminds you that you are already enough. You don't need to prove yourself through endless thoughts or perfect decisions. You are not your fears, not your doubts, not your regrets. You are the awareness that holds all of them, and that awareness is vast, peaceful, and whole. Imagine, for a moment, that you are sitting beside a still lake. The surface is calm, reflecting the sky above it. When the wind blows, ripples form, distorting the reflection. But the lake doesn't panic. It doesn't try to stop the ripples. It knows that when the wind passes, the water will settle again. That's your mind. The thoughts are the ripples. The stillness beneath them, that's you. You don't need to fight your thoughts. You just need to wait for the wind to pass. That is the art of peace. Not control, not perfection, but surrender. The quiet confidence that no matter what thoughts arise, you will remain. You will breathe. You will come back to yourself again and again. And in that returning, you will find freedom. So, if you're listening to this now, take a deep breath. Let it fill your chest, then release it slowly. Feel the air moving through you, the same air that moves through the trees, the same air that connects you to every living thing. You are part of this moment. You are part of something greater than your thoughts. And in this moment, everything is okay. You don't have to solve the past. You don't have to predict the future. You only have to be here. Right here. Right now. In this breath. In this heartbeat. That's all there ever really is. That's where peace lives, not in the answers, but in the awareness that you are already whole. Overthinking loses its meaning when you finally understand that life doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. It only needs to be lived. You can still have doubts and dreams, fears and hopes, and still find peace among them. You can still think, still plan, still care deeply, but now, you do it without losing yourself in the noise. You think from peace, not toward it. And that's the shift, the quiet miracle of learning to live lightly. You stop trying to hold everything, and you start to trust the flow of things. You stop demanding certainty, and you start to find comfort in the unknown. You realize that life isn't a problem to solve, but a mystery to experience. You stop thinking about being alive, and you simply live. So, when the next wave of overthinking comes, and it will, don't fight it. Don't fear it. Smile at it. Let it come and go like a passing breeze. Return to your breath. Return to your body. Return to the present. You'll see that peace was never something you had to chase. It was something you simply had to notice. And in that noticing, everything changes. The noise fades. The heart softens. The world feels lighter again. You finally understand that you were never broken. You were simply learning how to listen, to your mind, to your heart, to the stillness that lives beneath it all. And now, you know. You can stop overthinking. You can start living.